Welcome to the Cybele Health Podcast, where we share science-backed tools and expert insights to empower women's health and elevate their lives. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this new episode of Cybele Health Podcast. Today, we are going to talk with our special guests about AI and ML product management field, which is something that's in everybody's mind these days, especially on the product management side. So I'm super excited to welcome our guest, Prerna. She has a 14-year track record of building multi-million-dollar AI ML products at Amazon, AGI, and Moderna, and platform products at startup in the health tech and e-commerce domains. In her latest role, she is building the end-to-end AI and data platform for a wellness startup. That sounds really amazing. Welcome to the podcast, Prerna.
Thank you so much, Zara. So nice to be here.
Thank you. So tell me a little bit of the background. How did you start? What did you study? How did you enter into the job market? And share with us a little bit of your journey into AI/ML product management.
Yeah, absolutely. So, at the core, I'm an engineer. I think I'm a bit of a nerd. I started my undergraduate career at Georgia Tech in electrical and computer engineering and got super interested in software. Ended up joining Deutsche Bank in a big data platform engineering role, building equity trading platforms for Deutsche Bank. And I found that space very fascinating. And this was, many years ago, about 15 years ago now. And the whole, rage at the time was all of these big data platforms, Hadoop, Memcached, and that's what everybody wanted to use. I think Facebook was emerging at the time, and everything open source that was developed by Facebook, everyone in the world sort of wanted to adopt and use. So I found that interesting, but I also had a realization that I'm really interested in user problems and wanted to transition into product management. So I did so via an MBA. I was in Canada at the time, and I studied at University of Toronto. I was very fortunate there that given it's an engineering university, I had the opportunity to be part of an incubator called the Creative Destruction Lab, which only about 5% of my class got into. And what's interesting is Canada has been investing in artificial intelligence for the past 30, 40 years now. Um, in fact, one of the faculty members at this program that I was part of was Geoff Hinton, who won the Nobel Prize this year on his work in artificial neural networks, Nobel Prize for physics, because as we know, there isn't a computer science Nobel Prize.
Yeah.
And he was a part of the faculty on Creative Destruction Lab. In fact, we took seminar courses with him and got to learn from his work on backpropagation algorithms. And this was way back, about 8, 9 years ago now. I had a chance to meet venture capitalists who were investing in AI machine learning startups. One notable name is Shivon Zilis of Neuralink fame, and she was part of the ecosystem. So that sort of exposure about 8 years ago really gave me the grounding and the foundation, piqued my interest in artificial intelligence. And that's where, after graduating, I started to pursue roles, as many roles as possible in platforms and machine learning. I worked at Amazon for 5 years. I launched their payments platform machine learning model for like payment risk success. I worked at the AGI organization, Artificial General Intelligence Organization, building ML models for reinforcement learning. And all of the work that is now getting leveraged for Amazon Nova and an AWS SageMaker, all of those underpinnings were built by myself and my team. After that, I went on to pursue a role at Moderna, where I launched around 750 plus GPTs and leveraged capabilities from OpenAI and Anthropic, including fine-tuning RAG, document pipelines. And this was when the models had just come out. So I've been very fortunate for past couple of years to be part of these very exciting projects and teams where we're starting to explore new technology just as it's coming about and emerging. And so that's kind of what brought me here.
Nice, nice. So that's first of all, it's very fascinating the kind of different experience that you had. But I'm really curious to know, you experienced a lot of different domains and um, applying AI and ML in different domains. How did that early experience shape your career?
Yeah, I think it really actually honed my technical skills. So I came from an engineering background and I found myself applying systems thinking a lot to my various roles. As an engineer, you think in systems, you think in like how do these different parts work together, and you try to break down problems in that way. And I found that skill set really served me well as a technical product manager. So I did many different things. I worked on all of these different projects, but two fundamental things that really helped is uh, through my business experience, I got really good at understanding and analyzing data and making business cases for it, and then making good decisions based on that analysis. And then I also got super good at fully understanding sort of the engineering and product problems and then presenting that viewpoint so that I could build scalable systems rather than a small product. So I think both of those skill sets honed over the years have served me well.
Yes, definitely. Especially like thinking of smaller components as a system and applying that thought process of how does that like impacts the business. I really love that. So, you worked from healthcare to e-commerce, then to enterprise. You worked on a very diverse domains. How do you approach building AI ML models and products for such varied industries? And what are the unique challenges in each of these industries that you've faced?
Yeah. I still have those Amazonian traits in me from working at Amazon for 5 years. And at Amazon, I think Jeff Bezos always had these like fundamental ways of thinking around thinking from the user problem first, thinking from what is the opportunity size, what are the key challenges first, and starting from those challenges and working backwards to solve problems. So whenever I land up in a new space, I always start by thinking in a data-driven way and just analyzing the space, and then coming up with exactly what are the key, you know, from the data standpoint, from the user standpoint, what are the key challenges to solve. And I have found that that thinking has served me in any domain that I have been in because I'm tend to be analytical in how I approach this. That has really helped. So when I start off working on problems, I always start with the user problem. I then go into analyzing the opportunity size of the problem. And then the fundamentals of product management, including prioritization, coming up with a roadmap, thinking impact first. Those fundamental things I learned at Amazon still continue to serve me really well. And I think the other thing that I found, and I know is true for a lot of great leaders, both technical and product leaders, is continuous growth and learning, realizing that there is no end to, the learning, and you just have to continue to learn and invest in learning in different ways.
Cool, awesome. Um, I also love the approach of putting the customer first, even when you're designing your product, and that's also one of the key and main focuses at Apple too, which I think it's the key success for any of these, giant companies, is that they have the customer at the front row at every level, even at engineering level, you have to take that into account. So, you also like lots of teams and delivered lots of great results. How do you do that? What is your strategy on building high performing teams, especially in AI ML space?
Yeah, I will do a quick plug to an article I recently wrote on Mind the Product on the
Sure.
topic, and I tried to crystallize some things that have served me quite well. And one leadership principle that I was taught at Amazon, and I think they still use, is called invent and simplify, where you look around corners for ways to, take big, messy problems and then come up with the most inventive and simple way to address the problem. So sometimes, and this often happens with like a lot of smart folks where they see like a complex problem and they make it even more complex. So rather than simplifying it,
Part of
what
engineering mindset, over
exactly.
engineering.
Exactly, making
Sure,
it even more,
been there.
messy. So one thing that has really helped is like trying to deliberately simplify problems, whether it be about ways of working with the teams, like all the things around how do you build rapid prototypes, or using agile ways of working, or thinking in system boundaries and microservices architecture, like building in that way, or it be about metrics. What are the metrics you define? Who owns those metrics? How do you ensure that you have the right set of metrics as you're building the product? Because for example, if there is no way to track response latency in an AI agent, and or if you're not tracking that, or if that's not a priority, the architecture would look very different from when the PM or a leader comes in and says, no, latency is important, we need to solve for this, and folks would just build the whole technical architecture differently. I have also found some other fundamental truths. Privacy and security in particular for AI products is very important, and just getting very deep on understanding the regulations there and understanding the possibilities, like even things like what are the different models, and what are their security benchmarks, what are the benchmark metrics, which models are more prone to jailbreaking, what are the prompt injection techniques? What does it mean to build responsibly and ethically? What legal constraints will you encounter? So I think this in part comes from experience, but also a lot of reading and learning, and staying up to date with the industry. All in all, I really feel like sometimes, when it comes to scale, simplifying a problem ends up being a huge unlock for a team versus making it more complex.
Sure, definitely. I cannot agree more, especially when the product and the team and the users are at a massive scale. Simplicity like solves a lot of problems at, so many different levels.
Exactly.
Um, so what are the common mistakes that you see from product management, people who work on that roles, especially when it comes to AI ML? Can you share with us maybe the top two or three mistakes that you see that it's very common?
Yeah, I I think actually it might be a contradictory advice. Rather than trying to solve problems on your own, leaning on, the experts, especially with what's unique about the AI/ML product management role is a lot of times, a lot of the innovations are coming from the science. So, there are product innovations that, if you're working in B2C, a lot of product innovations can come, like you could launch a cool UI or interesting feature, and that could be innovative and interesting to users. But here it's the opposite. A lot of the innovation comes from the scientists and the engineers. So almost having a different model where you're collaboratively working with the data scientist, the engineer, the any kind of business analyst, and you together to come up with the ideas around the product is what I have, seen work well. And that's actually what PMs who come from different domains might not fully recognize in the beginning. So I think over time they would start to realize the space operates differently, and to innovate and scale in the space means that you have to fully understand the scientist problems. You have to be very close to the scientists. You have to understand how they think. But a lot of folks coming from other domains, product PMs who come to AI/ML, they always struggle with this aspect.
Interesting. And so you work as a woman, obviously, like in engineering team and also in product management roles. Um, what challenges what unique challenges do you see women face working in AI ML product management, and what is your advice on overcoming these challenges?
Yeah, for sure. I'm happy to, if it's helpful to folks, even share a few stories there.
Sure.
And this was like super early in my career. I was in fact an engineer. I was not even a PM at that time. Somebody made the comment to me that women are not technical, and they said it to my face, and they didn't mean it as anything. It was just like, to them it was factual. And I found that very interesting. But I thought it was unique to their perspective, but I realized a lot of folks share that. And it's really unfortunate. It's a perception, sort of a bias. In addition, I think to certain extent, there might be some age-related things there too. So I've seen that happen, specifically with myself and the women around me. And this happens in parts, of course. Not to say that it's a universal thing, but in pockets you do see that kind of thing. The best thing I have learned and applied in my career is likely just ignore such sentiments. Of course, every person might have their own perspective, and in some cases what you might think is a bias. What I have observed is your work and your consistent work can make a big difference in how people perceive you, regardless of whether you're a woman or a man or any other type of minority, even from a gender standpoint, let's say. So one thing I've realized is not letting that bias and perception stop you, realizing it's a bias, there's nothing you can do to control it, and just letting the work, consistent work sort of speak for itself, and also speaking up for yourself and advocating for yourself at the same time. The other thing I would say in AI and machine learning, building a very close and rapport and empathizing with developers and data scientists is important. So the more you do that, actually, folks realize that it's almost like the relatability where, folks realize you can think like them. So then these sorts of things become non-issues. Who you are, is important, but at the same time, what you bring to the table becomes more and more apparent. So I really think it's about, how you present and advocate for yourself, and like how you consistently demonstrate results.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I agree to all of that, especially speaking up for yourself, promoting your work. As a woman, we are always on the kind of shy side, and we don't speak up or we don't promote ourselves, we don't brag about ourselves. But this is ultimately a very important approach that we have to take on to, progress and move up the ladder in our career. But you also mentioned a very interesting point, which was being more relatable um, to the developers and data scientists. How do you think they can do that, especially if the person who is at the product role is not very technical?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think one realization I've had in my career is people are people regardless of their function. A data scientist might be, a dad or a mom, and they have to go home to two kids and take care of those kids. Same thing as everybody else. And just building that relationship sometimes, relating to them as a person,
Right.
being
Human
open and
connection.
human connection. Exactly. Just that human
Yeah.
element sometimes really helps. Um,
Do you
that's
think
one thing.
taking do you think maybe taking online classes or courses, that familiarize yourself a little bit more, at least with the vocabulary or like how things work in general and like high level. Do you how do you think that would be helpful?
Yeah, for sure. I think I would say if you're coming from a non-technical field, or you feel like you need work on the technical skills, don't just take a a course on
Hmm.
prompt engineering and think that is the answer. Go deeper. Try to learn the fundamentals, understand what is machine learning about, understand What is a transformer architecture? What is the big change unlocked by GPT? How do these models develop? What are the different techniques to develop a model? How do you customize models? Go into the fundamentals and actually understand the techniques and the options available to you when building these products. Uh, Courses are helpful, yes, but if they're too high level and then you take that knowledge and jot it down and say it in meetings, that will not be the best way to earn the,
Mhm.
rapport and trust with the developers and data scientists. Be interested, be curious about it, learn
Mhm.
about the domain, and you will see folks will respond to that because they're also doing the same thing. They're also open and curious and excited about this space. So I think that is it. It's the actual investment in learning. And there's so many options available online. I mean, there's the deep learning AI, there's Kaggle. You can take courses on Kaggle. Coursera has some great courses. It does involve a certain time investment, but I think it's worth it if this is
Definitely.
something you really love and are serious about.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, Taking courses and like as a series. So this is a folks, this is a kind of a long-term planning. It's not one semester or 1 month. So we are entering into a new year. So that could be a good resolution to put into your list of, knowing more about AI and maybe have a longer plan of 6 months, 8 months of getting into one of those specialization tracks that Coursera offers, which has multiple courses. I think that definitely that will be a way to
Absolutely.
go. Yes. Now, for
What
people
would you
who want,
recommend?
um, I actually, to be honest, you wrapped it up very nicely. The two things that you said was that first, be curious. Curiosity as the core of being a really good AI ML engineer or a scientist, because it opens up a lot of different doors for you when you are curious and thinking about is there any other way that we can do that? Is there any other improvement? What are the challenges? And even like think about like high level from the customer perspective, user journey, how we can improve that, how we can apply that, even at the data, what's data telling us. So curiosity at so many different levels help, and obviously taking courses, educating yourself. So each course, and think of it as a tool that you put that in your toolbox. I did like so many different things. I learned even how to create UI because I wanted to visualize data in a nicer way, to developers, to Q&A, and to higher management, and it worked really well. I was able to tell the story of one of the skills that a good AI scientist has or should have is to be able to tell the story with the data. And I think that enables people, um, to do that if they can use AI and if they can use UI, sorry, to visualize it. So yeah, so the next question I have, and I get asked this a lot, is that how to do the transition. And it can come from two different set of people, with some people with the technical background, but they've done only engineering. Now they want to enter into product management, and the other side is people who are not technical. They have done like other works around maybe engineering, maybe not, but they are really interested into entering into the world of AI ML, specifically product management. So what is your suggestion? How do you think that they should approach that transition?
Yeah, so I'll divide this problem into two parts. Uh, the first part is the actual job transition, and then the second part is the skill set. So, from a job transition standpoint, I have a couple of friends who've made this transition, and what worked is going into one of the fangs and requesting and having a rapport with your manager where you're transitioning from a technical role to product, building that rapport with your PM, taking on projects like mini projects that they give you to actively make the transition to product. So say like, this is my project. I'm going to plan it this way. I'm going to take mentorship from a PM and then make the transition. There are actually most FAANG companies like Apple, Amazon, Meta, Netflix, Google, they all have this sort of system where it's easy to transition. The other way to do that is to build something of your own, like build an app. So now it's super easy. I mean, use Cursor or Vercel.v0.dev and build something really quickly and ask a bunch of questions about how PM would think, build a business model for it, launch it, and get traction, get the metrics. That's another way to do it. But the core is to kind of build a portfolio and have that portfolio to show when it comes to acquiring any product roles. So I'd say that's the job search part and that's the path. And we are very, very fortunate now. It's super easy to transition if that's something of interest. From a skill set standpoint, that takes a bit of work to acquire, especially the problem space thinking. You're a senior engineering leader. You've been in industry for a while, and you're also a founder. And I know that when it comes to actual product building from a 0 to 1, fully understanding the problem space and then proposing like the right idea, like having the right idea and then executing it is important. And with engineering, sometimes this part, the problem space, understanding the problem space, proposing the right idea, because they come in at slightly later half, that might not be fully honed. But that's a super important skill set. Just you're a founder, and I know that's something I'm sure you think about quite a bit, and also as a
Sure.
PM it's super important.
Yes, yes, definitely. Um, yeah, I mean, I agree. It's I would say also go with more coffee sessions with your whoever is already in the role in your current company or the job that you're doing, and get different perspectives. Don't just rely on 1 or 2%. Get different perspectives and start doing something on the side, maybe as a help. I have these many hours free this week, I can help you, be an assistant. You
Exactly.
get a sense of how does it look like and feel like living on that role. Will help you a lot in making the decision and then transitioning.
Absolutely. It's a great point.
Great. Yes. Okay, thank you. So, next and the last question is that, the world of AI and ML is evolving a lot, and it's evolving not only, AI, ML, life cycle and jobs, but also everything around it. So, what skills or qualities do you think will be essential for product managers to succeed in this space, let's say, in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I will caveat everything I say by saying it's super hard to predict
I
because
understand.
the space is moving for everybody. I think for data scientists, engineers,
Mhm.
designers, PMs, everyone involved, I think we are realizing that our roles will all fundamentally change over next five
Mhm.
years. I think one big learning I've had is being open to continuous learning and having the resilience to like not be fixed in this is my skill set and it will not change. Being super flexible to grow that
Mhm.
space is becoming super, super important for everybody. Um, Another point number two that I'll say is becoming really well versed with the tools. So I, for example, use a number of AI tools in my personal life. I use two different LLMs. I have grammar correctors. I use writing tools. I use design tools. I build prototypes using all of these low code platforms like Cursor, v0.dev. So I'm myself investing a lot of time in becoming a user of the AI tools more than just
Mhm.
learning the technology itself. And I do think as a PM that's important. I think actually it's important for everybody in our roles now. But the more you do that and like the easier and the more free flowing and more grasp you have on the skill, the better. Because that is what you would need in future. That's my take on it. That's my opinion. And from a PM standpoint, the two other points I'll make is being understanding fully the the metrics and the trade-offs of choosing models, choosing a different product, making architecture decisions, long versus short term, being comfortable with the metrics. The metrics and trade-offs part is very important, and that's also unique to the AI/ML role. Uh,
Mhm.
with other metrics, like let's say, you were in a B2C role, knowing the user adoption or engagement metrics is important, but those are very customer facing. Here, you need to get to the platform level and then start to define those. And then finally, I completely agree with what you were mentioning earlier, which is being able to visualize the data and comfort with analysis. So I actually at Amazon, I used to do that with the scientists. I used to sit with them and then create visualizations, and we used to prepare presentations together to get investments for products. So I completely agree with that point. It's so important. The storytelling aspect is so important.
Yes. Okay, great. So do you know any like resources? What do you use to stay up to date with the recent changes? Is there any channel, any forum, any podcast? What do you use?
Yeah, for sure. I tend to read a lot, mostly following a bunch of folks on Twitter, like a couple of
Mhm.
scientists who post
Mhm.
papers on Twitter. So that's one big resource. For example, Dario Amodei recently posted a blog on Anthropic, and
Mhm.
uh, those kinds of things keep coming up where pioneers in the space post something and then you can kind of get to learn about it. I'm open to even like I tell these tools to research to summarize research papers for me or teach me the research papers. So I try to do that to learn more. And then other sources, I am subscribed to newsletters. So whatever is the latest new product, I just learn about it through there. So I recommend all of those things, and I'd be happy to share it with the audience at the end of this
Sure,
podcast.
yes. Yeah, sure. So we will put that in the comment section for audience, a few of them that um, you know you prefer to share. Um, that was it for this session. I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story and the lessons that you learned. Is there any final words you want to share with our audience?
I think I really enjoyed myself. Thank you for setting this up. I'm excited to share what I've learned with everybody. So thanks again for inviting me.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And thank you for all of you who are watching or listening to us. Hope you enjoyed this session. Please share that with your friends. And until next time, take care of yourself.